Welcome to another StarCraft 2 cast, y'all. It's going to be one that maybe some of you were not able to catch. Kind of slipped in a bit under the radar, but it is obviously a good series because in the bottom right of a best of 7 here, starting off on Incorporeal, we do have Team Liquid's Clem. And in the top left, it is Team Basilisk, or just Basilisks, Reynor. So yeah, TVZ best of 7 was played out just 24 hours ago or something like that. But it went under the radar. Okay, well, this can't go under the radar. What's going on here? Very quickly, because we wasn't expecting this, but all right. The FEL, and I should have had the thing up and running, and I didn't, as far as the, I think it's the Fusion Esports League is why it's called the FEL. Cracov, I was right, Fusion Esports League, was a tournament that was held on one day only, and it was a Sunday, and it was the day that everyone got back from EWC. So, unfortunately, why that happened, it wasn't because they didn't think it would matter, it was because they had already planned everything out for this tournament before EWC announced the time and dates, and, you know, it's just the way that it is. But this is an important note, not just for the context of the game and the tournament and why you guys didn't see it, but also, these guys are, like, off of a plane at this point, all right? Like, they got off of a plane, they took a ride to the venue while the tournament had already begun, and then they immediately sat down to play their games, and then just played all the way up to the finals, something like 6 hours, I guess, whatever it took to get to the finals, and now they're playing. But this is after their 6-hour journey back from the EWC. They had, I think, like a delay, I think is also why it took so long. They should have been back faster, but there was, the layover was missed or something along those lines, and they still were able to play a very top-tier level and make it to the finals, which is what we're casting now. And yes, this is a very interesting start. Haven't seen one of these in a long time. So yes, the hatchery is finished. You saw the SCVs pulled down as soon as Clem figured this out, which was actually very quickly. Trying to pull the SCVs and getting the Reaper down there is one thing. If you figured it out even quicker, building a bunker is usually not a bad idea either. So this is where I think it would be maybe a little questionable as to how effective this is going to be as far as the defense for Clem. If you notice that as soon as the hatchery starts, you can pull the SCVs and actually get it canceled. You get out DPS it. It's a risk. It's a gamble, but it's technically possible. In this case, this is obviously something that is going to produce lings and a queen. And a few more lings beyond that. SCVs needed as a body blocker. Clem still focusing on just building up his... Still 1-max expand, just making sure not to add on anything so that he can continue producing army. Mass repair being surprisingly helpful. SCV is going to once again use their body blocking prowess to save these Marines. Every last Marine saved. No, one does go down. Second one so close to dying too, and it's not going to go down. 2 queens and, or sorry, 2 Marines and a Reaper against just the 1 queen. Second queen is on the way. His hatchery is seconds away from death, but so far Reynor barely able to save it. Does have a natural hatchery back at home. Lings were allowed up into the main base. Made a mistake right there. Marines do go down. Reaper should never fall to slow Lings. And the speed is not going to complete in time, so that's some good news for Clem. But it is now a situation where this hatchery is spreading creep. It's got a second queen for even more creep spread. That is primarily the issue, honestly. Just how long it's going to take to kill this hatchery, clean up all the creep tumors, and then continue on with your life.
Forces detected. Arming raid defenses.
Thank you very much, Wardy, for the big raid. Oh, Marine popped out on the wrong side. Guarantee that was a mistake. Oh, I can't actually believe that it worked. That probably shouldn't have. The queen probably should have body blocked the supply depot raising again, but maybe a slight opportunity missed due to the troubles I was talking about, how tired these guys must be. So Speedlings, if they're not allowed into the main base, we're A-okay on 1 base for Clem. He's alright. If they are allowed in the main base, oh god! Queen does go down. Supply depot was raised, and Clem is holding this so far pretty well. He did get the command center up and has been building SCV, so he is completely oversaturated. There we go, finally Lings actually entering in. Nice little choke, though. The Cyclone is still going to go down, so at the end of the day... actually, that was probably well enough time. So the Cyclone that's about to pop out will do so in time to, again, clear up the hatchery and start working on the creep. So it's maybe not the worst thing. It could have been worse. That's the best way to put it. It could have been better, it could have been worse. At least he still has the Cyclone out. But it is frustrating because I mean, at this point, you know what? It's actually very interesting. So Clem didn't go up to a starport, which would have been a lot of people's default reaction to this. I'll get a Banshee. The Banshee won't be attacked by anything but queens, and he's not going to have the queens, you know, in a high number. And they shouldn't get anywhere close to a Banshee because, you know, he can't get into the main base. But that's one thing that's interesting. The other thing is that we didn't go into more Hellion production. As you can see, Ling's really causing a lot of problems right now as Reynor kills every last Marine, going after the 2 Cyclones now. SCV's once again pulled. Looks like they won't be able to get a surround on the Cyclone that needed it. And another one will go down. So, so he built 3 Cyclones. Interesting. I wonder how much Clem was expecting this to eventually come out to be roaches. 1 Cyclone does kind of make sense. You help clear out the hatchery, you help clear out the queens. Overlord even, actually, can help clear out. Tank also, like that protection you would usually want. A tank does make a lot of sense. It's just that I do wonder if maybe swapping over to Hellions faster would have made the this a little bit quicker to clean up. I don't know. We do not have games like this very often anymore. And it seems like Clem has done a good enough job, always trading out with these Lings, the tank fire. Oh, really hurting right now. SCVs once again happen to be pulled, and just a handful of Marines on the reinforcements. Looks like it'll just be enough. If you could imagine in some situation where he could have gotten up to 4 Hellions, how much more those Lings would not have made an impact. At the end of the day, resource trade still favors Clem, even though he's lost a lot more gas units. But Reynor, still not done. More and more Lings arriving. If you're not going to make any Hellions, I guess, I'm going to keep on catching you with a low Marine count, but that Marine count not going to be low for very long. Instead of going straight up to that starport, which would have provided maybe a Banshee that maybe would have made you feel very safe, or a Raven, which would have helped to clear out this creep spread, Clem added on barracks, trying to get to the heavy Marine count, the critical mass of Marines that would clear out Lings, and then also threaten the counterattack once the medevacs are out. It was, I think, a long-term plan that could have backfired, but fortunately it did not. Reynor never getting that one decisive surround that then led to the catastrophic collapse of Clem's 2-base setup. So at the end of the day, I guess it did work out, but this creep spread is so annoying, man. This is just... ugh. Do you want to take a look at Reynor's situation back at home? He's had to build a lot of Lings. Still able to get to 60 drones. +1 Carapace was faster. And he's also working on 1-1. A little supply block right there. 8 Queens, a pretty good number. And these Marines enough combat shields can't stick around for a very long time. Again, looking at the resources lost, it's 100 Lings used in all of these attempts to really do a lot more damage than what happened. Yeah, the more I look at this, the more I like the way that Clem has played this out. I'm honestly looking at this right now as a way to copy for all the games that happen on ladder that look like this, because I think this is just such a rare way to see TVZ play it out in the pro gaming level. And a lot of the instant reactions to danger in the early game like that is to go into Banshees, try and eventually maybe get to the Hellions, fit in the Raven at some point to clear up all this creep spread. And that, I think, does work out. I think we could have gone that way and done some neat tricks and played the right game to win there. But basically, Clem kind of didn't let Reynor force him into maybe more of an awkward scenario. He was like, I'm just going to get to a 3-base Marine tank setup without the awkwardness of the factory and the starport included. And he's gotten there. He has gotten to 3-base setup. Creep spread is being cleaned up steadily. There's a medevac drop keeping tabs on what Reynor is doing as well, seeing if maybe he's not building a lot of drones, or he is building into roaches, for instance, or he's building into Lings. It is Lings, been Lings. Infestors are on the way. Hive is on the way. Burrow now being researched too. I mean, it's getting into kind of a normal-looking mid-game, except I think one of the biggest differences would be upgrades. Clem very far behind in the upgrades. Infestors here to threaten these medevacs. I don't know if Clem quite got an eye on them. He's seen 5 bases, good number of drones, nothing in the main base as of yet, but I think with the amount of army that he has seen or not seen, then I think he kind of maybe figures out this is going to go up to Hive. Doesn't seem too preoccupied in getting the scans down to scout for it at the very least, so I think he figures he knows where the game is at this point. Bit of a bigger push off to the right side. No tanks included, and blitzing across all of this creep spread hasn't quite worked out. Reynor does react strongly, and with that upgrade lead as well, any links around is going to be, pretty much a sign for the Marines to get up and go. There's not much they can do about that. Juno Glands will finish up long before Clem is really anywhere close to 2-2. That just feels wrong. I think Clem, gonna keep tabs on that, no doubt, realizing as he's clicking on his opponent's units, looking at his own situation back at home, how late those are. But 4th base is on the way. Tank count has risen steadily, going up to 6. Oh, no, he has swapped over into Wood of Mines, so staying at 5. Second factory, no. No, he has not prioritized that one. Just some more barracks, and we'll see as the game goes on. But Reynor, man, suddenly just skyrocketing headed on the supply. The 20 supply difference we were seeing just 2 minutes ago was very normal TVZ. Now at almost 50 supply difference, a little more than that. That is a bit scary. I mean, this is before the Terran really has a solid setup back at home, before all the creep spread has been cleaned up, and long before the upgrades are beneficial for Clem. This is a 2-2 timing on the side of the Zerg players. +2 melee will finish up. Clem has chosen a very defensive position, though, never moved those tanks away. He's going to have to abandon the 3rd base temporarily, but that is a good choice. Infestor looking for that beautiful fungal, though. No, not quite going to find it. The Marines do pull back in time. No Banelings, by the way. This is very much a choice coming out from Reynor. Fungal does finally hit. A follow-up Fungal as well, but the Medevac's healing every Marine individually is going to be enough to stand. Clem holds, but loses 20 SCVs in the process. Still has so much creep spread to deal with as well, and it just seems like that wasn't the place Clem wanted to find himself after the hubbub of the early game. Feel like I've gaslit myself. I was like, well, hold on, this actually looks okay. Maybe this is the way that I should try and respond to a proxy hatchery. And now I'm like, well, maybe not. It was Reynor, he had to kind of maybe respect the idea of the Marines coming across the map. He did have a lower economy right off the bat because of the opener that he did and the lings that he made. Sure. But it just, I think, became a game where he felt so comfortable on his side of the map with the amount of creep spread that he had, that eventually did bump up to 89 drones. Eventually, he did reward the patience of getting to the long game, right? Getting all of his upgrades, getting to the Hive, with just this huge surplus of supply. And Clem did not have the same pacing available to himself, and this looks like a game over moment, honestly. The Fungals might not be necessary. Although I'm surprised they didn't happen. Maybe they didn't have the energy. This is Clem on his last stand. The Queens have now come across the map to spread more creep. So that doesn't look too good. And this Infestor, I mean, 2 Infestors really are being so patient. There it is. There it is. There's the game over Fungal. All right. What was it? Let's check minute 8. How bad did that look at minute 8? Not that bad, right? This didn't look that terrible. 10 worker difference, 4th base arriving. Clem would not really be outpaced as far as the expansions that much. His 3rd CC is going to come down very quickly. This was when I was like, okay, maybe this actually is a good idea. Maybe this actually did work. And then it just, when exactly the supplies just jump. Oh, big supply block. I didn't notice. That was the cause of actually some of the jump. I mean, around here, I guess. Bumps up the drone count. Not trading out much army for a few minutes at this point, and then just, yeah, getting so much reward. All right, GG. Besides the creep spread. The creep spread was very concerning, and it ended up staying concerning. So game 1 goes the way of Reynor. Now we're on an Ultra Love. Bottom left is Clem. Top right, Reynor. Yeah, I still don't... You see it so infrequently in pro games. I would love to have a second replay available. where the same opening situation happened. And then Clem did go into, again, more the kind of like the expected response to that, which is maybe into Hellion, Banshee, Raven. Or just Hellion, Raven, the Banshee, I don't think ends up helping as much, but basically if he gets a Raven, let's just put it that way. And if he gets a Raven, it clears out the creep spread a lot faster. Doesn't have to use the amount of scans that he did, which obviously is taking away from the money of the mules that he was supposed to be slapping down. To make up for the worker deficit. 10 worker deficit is not bad at all for a Terran who is actually dropping mules.
Apparently you are
If
doing
they're
something
not,
right,
then it's
Captain.
just straight up worker versus worker situation. And then he wouldn't have had, obviously, the bad creep spread towards the end of the game, but yeah, that creep spread maybe should have been more a priority to clear that up. Just for, the sake of the mules on the creep spread that he had to clean up, and then on the left side for the creep spread that was giving Reynor a lot of information. Bali, thank you for the 93 months. Nova Steve, thank you for the 34 months. Cian Wolf with 47 months as well. Thank you, guys. Not generally a cheese scene from Zerg players, because, well, generally OTA doesn't really work all that well. But there's a lot of what-ifs in that game. What if Clem held a bit stronger in one of those first Ling waves? If he had, then the critical mass of Marines to stop only Lings would have been we would have arrived to that point a lot faster. Instead, there was a reset every single time, and it was hard to call because it was like, well, you also had to make the Lings on the side of the Zerg. But a brief screen cap of 8-minute mark didn't really tell the whole story. Now to a much more normal game. One Rax Expand coming out from Clem into a factory. Reynor 3 Edge up and running. Thank you, Soulman, for the bits, and Oil No Habits for the tier 3 40-month resub. So I didn't really get a lot of time to fully discuss the situation here, but yeah, quick recap. This tournament happened the Sunday after EWC because they had planned it so long ago, and EWC just kind of was like, oh, sucks to be you. The players were supposed to get back to their home or to the venue, I guess actually probably to Poland directly, right? Before they did, which actually ended up being as the tournament started, they were arriving so that you heard, them making there's supposed to be an A stream, B stream dynamic, I think. Multiple games played at once, and they were waiting on players to arrive. So they said, okay, let's just play all the games in order on the A stream. It's a very peculiar setup that meant that these two and a couple others had to arrive in unideal scenarios. But to make it to the finals still. It's pretty impressive. But if we do see some more mistakes, like last game noticing Clem's pretty severe supply block, really. Like, you could just be like, oh, okay, that does make some sense. It's going to go into a 2-1-1. Second barracks was created. Overlord not even bothered trying to actually get nice, close, and comfy, so not going to see that for a little while. 4 Hellions were made, and that is going to be it. And with only 4 Hellions showing themselves, Reynor might eventually figure it's going to be a drop at 6:30. We have seen some trickery from the Terran in these TVZs the last week. It's actually been pretty cool watching Cure's ideas for trickery. Yeah, apparently this tournament also ran really late, so... Started on ideal, ended on ideal. At least there was a good TVZ in the middle. I was watching Roddy stream this while I was at the airport in Frankfurt. Waiting in a 6-hour layover for my dreaded window seat 9-hour flight. I fucking hate the window seat, man. People would be like, at least it wasn't middle. I actually think I feel like I kind of prefer middle. I know that's like a real hot take. But
received. Apparently you are doing
you know what?
something
More
right,
Hellions are
Captain.
being made. Oh, he's doing the Hellbat thing. Okay. All right, I'll talk more about my super hot take in a second. So Hellbats are being made. So he stops building Hellions to swap the reactor off, right? So he stays at 4, but to add one more from the factory is a little cheeky. You get the armory super quickly. You arrive at 5:30. I said 6:30 earlier. I'm going to say 5:30. I swear. You arrive at 5:30 with your 16 Marines, but then a little bit more. Those Hellbats are very problematic against someone who has 0 Banelings, no Roaches. Queens realize what's going on, get the heck out of there. Overlord will be killed. Doesn't supply block Reynor, but you really need to collect his queens together and then get a very good surround with the Lings, of which he has very few to begin with. Those Lings gonna immediately barbecue. The Queens trying their best, doing a bit of a spread right here, but they're just not killing very much. Their DPS is not good enough. And this... is it game over? It kind of could be. Let's say it might as well be. This is way too much damage for a Zerg player to take. Having to remake all these Lings, losing even more Queens, possibly losing this 4th hatch, almost certainly going to have to cancel that one. One more Hellbat is around, and that is pretty crucial. The Marines actually getting very, very injured, so they are forced to flee. And the hatchery will stay alive. Reynor managing to make something happen at the last couple of seconds right there. Still took a lot of damage. 7 Queens went down. The ones remaining needing to inject, so that's going to reduce creep spread for some time. It's also going to reduce follow-up help to these drops. Okay, one more Queen dies. Which, of course, they can be the ones to target fire down the medevacs. Behind this, Clem is on 3cc. He's getting into his tank factory production, already up to 2 tanks, which is good enough, and then also adding on a 2nd factory, so we will see that 4th command center come down as well. That was a lot of damage to take. That was a lot of damage. Not quite game over, but also a really good idea against someone who has been playing more and more with this Ling-only, no Baneling style. Most Zerg players are going to delay their Baneling nest, even if they do plan on going into Banelings for as much as they can, basically. So if they do figure it's a 2-on-1 drop, they have their defense at 530 of Queen Ling. That actually is totally fine most of the time. It's those Hellbats that make it different. And now Reynor has it on the Baneling nest. He's still going to have to wait a long time for centrifugal hooks. Tank attack already here on the front lines. Clem actually scans ahead, saw the bit of the army, didn't really... wasn't convincing himself that that was the place to stall out on the attack. Let's take a more cautious approach to this. 1-1 is going to be finished up soon for the Terran. 1-1 soon for Reynor as well. Once again, prioritizing that +1 Carapace, just waiting on the melee. Hive is on the way too. Macro Hatchery and 5th base off to the far left side. Clem just, yeah, again, playing very safe. Not really looking for a lot of headway there. Maybe waiting for that maxed out situation. It's interesting. I wonder why he didn't have as much faith in attack right there. I guess seeing Banelings made and Lings waiting to get this around. Figured it wasn't the moment to shine. And now a follow-up attack is on the way. Here's the drop heading over to the top left. Unfortunately, already losing over half of it. Reynor had preempted the drop. And in the drop, it just run over rather than being dropped over. Fuck you, bot. The drop, it actually does kind of suck that it lost already 6 Marines. That just is such a less of a threat. Like, if you don't notice this for 10 seconds, it doesn't kill very much. If you don't notice 8 Marines and a medevac, it kills so much. He left a couple of tanks back at home, so the run-bys will be less effective. Excellent SimCity as well. 2 factories producing all these Widow Mines at this point, too. Getting the 8 Raxes up as well as the 4th command center heads over to the right side. Reynor missing some of the reinforcements, but now eyeing the run-by. I think maybe Clem got a glimpse of it? No, he didn't. He's going to be surrounded at this point by the looks of things. He has set up quite the attack on the front lines, though. Widow Mines aplenty. Tank in a nice anchored position. Looks like the run-by did try and catch some of those reinforcements. And Clem is also paying attention, so Reynor's just going to keep this as a threat. Oh, wow, that's a lot of army on the front. That is a lot of army being pushed onto the creep spread, and Clem is forced to entirely disengage by lifting, which means, of course, that he has to unload on the way back. That was messy as hell. So many medevacs getting very injured thanks to the friendly fire of the Widow Mines. At the end of the day, Clem manages to take a better trade. Overall, Reynor struggling to match the supply of his opponents while trying to get all of these upgrades, trying to get to the higher technology. Oh, Burrowed Banelings are quite good. Shit, I didn't even notice that. But even though he made that fight awkward, Like, Clem ran a bit too deep onto that creep. He now comes back with so much army. Reynor having difficulty trying to really tackle this when he's down almost 30 army supply. Vipers are out. The parasitic bomb could be huge on these weakened medevacs, but the Lings are not getting these around. They're looking for the Banelings, not getting the connections. And Clem is on the doorstep of this base looking for the kill. There's that parasitic bomb, but instantly micros away. Doesn't let that blinding cloud push his army forward either. Clem is on a roll, micro-wise. He sees the opportunity to kill his opponent right now. Excellent focus fire on the Banelings. And I think he has found that foothold. Clem comfortable in 4 bases, back and home. Upgrades all evened up here. Hatchery that was weakened earlier is going to finally go down. Overlords aplenty falling as well. And Reynor cannot even get these Banelings up. Some of them do finish with the parasitic bomb that is instantly split away from. Again, the medevac's not quite going down. A drop heading to the main base as Clem also sends reinforcements over to the left side. Drones are being evacuated. The main base is now in trouble. Banelings not going to get focus fired. Clem probably only just then looking. Another parasitic bomb. Certainly this eventually will kill the medevacs, and I think it finally does. There we go. Only took 5 parasitic bombs. But this hatchery is a goner. The attack is now shifted over to the left side. Reynor, unable to get over the hump of 140 supply, knows this is a very bad game for him. Like, he's not going to tap out right now, but he's got to figure his opponent's close to max. He hasn't done any economic damage. He, has taken some trades on the army supply, of course, but there's clearly a lot of Terran left over. A little spread there, and the Banelings can't make the connections, even with the creep helping them. Viper's trying to come on through. Maybe a blinding cloud to kind of push the bio forward. Yeah, it does happen, but it's not going to be enough. GG's. Clem will win game 2. And now we're even up here on Persephone. In the top left, it is Reynor. Bottom left, it is Clem. So now for the deconstruction of my super hot take, which is that I think middle seat might actually be better. Here we go, guys. All right. Oh, god damn it, Reynor. Sending a drone out. Come on. TVZ is supposed to be like a guaranteed 5 minutes of no action. Come on. Anyways, why do I think middle is better than window? Let's just keep it at that for now while we wait for this to go down. So, aisle, it has 2 things going for it. Or, not aisle. Middle. Middle has 2 things going for it that I think people don't really appreciate unless they're like on airplanes a fuck ton and they notice this. First of all, everyone notices, everyone knows the rule, the golden rule, okay? The unspoken rule. You get both armrests. Okay? Everyone knows that. Second thing is, they actually get more of the space underneath the seats. Because usually there's differences in airplanes, but I've begun to notice this whenever I've looked at how much leg room I have, basically. Not even leg room. It's not leg room as in like my knees up to the seat in front of me. It's like the amount of space my feet have to go. The middle seat, actually, the bars of the seats in front of you, the middle seat actually has the most space between those bars that support the seats in front of you. They do. In a lot of airplanes, they absolutely do. So you can actually kind of like plant your feet a little farther. Obviously, you're not going to like man spread and put your knees out to the side, but you can plant your feet farther. And then the third thing for me personally is that it's only one person to ask to get up. But this is where I'll leave it for now. And we'll talk about the game. So this was found out very quickly. Quicker than actually, I don't know if it is quicker than the last game that this happened. I did not check the timings. But a big difference, at the very least, is that Clem decided to actually try and kill this shit. Game number 1, especially if he was apparently woken up for the finals, coming in from chat, the hot details, you're groggy and you're like, what the fuck is this shit? What are you... Oh my god, you're doing a proxy hatcher? Are you serious? Like, oh, this isn't even good. Like, oh my god. Not saying that's exactly what happened. I don't know Clem. I'm not Clem. But if Clem kind of figured that this was not going to be a big deal, so he only pulls, I believe it was 4 SCVs in the first game, you could see he didn't kill it. And he, it got low, but not even low enough to really go for a snipe. This time around, he's like, okay, I'm not going to deal with this shit. This is bullshit. Gets into his gamer mode, gamer posture. And just kills it immediately. Brings enough SCVs down to ensure its death. Before the queen pops out, before the lings accumulate, and they stop you from going after the queen that's spreading the creep spread, just nips it in the bud. And that's probably how it's supposed to happen every game, honestly. I was saying, like, well, you don't see it that often, so you don't see how they're going to follow things up. Actually, the really good thing to do against this is always nip it in the bud, get rid of it before it ever gets started. If only StarCraft was that easy. So yeah, that's, I think, a better response, a better setup for Clem, who has his high ground command center finished. Got a 1-1-1 on the way. Doesn't need the Wraith in this game. So maybe just going into, well, it looks like a Liberator, actually. He's not getting a Tech Lab. But we know how good he can be with that. The Reaper die, it did just die. It was unable to see the third hatchery, but it might have gotten a kind of good glimpse at how many lings were created and kind of figured, you know, extrapolated from that. Oh! Old school. All right, how about attack worked once? Let's do it again. Well, certainly they will not have a Baneling Nest. And in this game, Clem was able to at least get a scout on a particularly early Roachborn. It could be coming down right now at 4 minutes, although I'm not sure about the hatchery opener. Actually, I'm not sure with that. Anyway, probably not going to be roaches either. So a Hellbat attack sounds like a good idea. The reason that this isn't very popular anymore, though, this 2-base Hellbat attack, is because queens are still pretty good. If the queens collect themselves and they're individually microed, and there's any amount of lings to support them, generally this Hellbat attack does not do the damage it once did 6 years ago. So let's see how that unfolds. We are at 4 queens only. 3 of them are collected together. Main base 1 coming on down now as he realizes what this is. As soon as you see the medevac, you know what it is. Oh! Oh! Man, Evo chamber block so hot right now. God damn. I didn't expect that one against a Hellbat attack. I like the idea. A little late to pull in the drones, however, means that 5 do go down. Queen falls as well. Medevac is being target fired. Clem just barely able to save that one. We don't have the high ground vision. Now we do, and now it does go down. Evolution Chamber unfortunately finishes. Maybe he will end up using that, but this has been a bit of a chaotic 30 seconds for... Oh my god, every last queen's gonna go down. Oh my god. Yeah, Reynor's pretty shit out of luck right now, I think. He's trying to build drones because like right now the problem is that he will clean this up. Case in point, he will clean this up, but he's already taken so much damage. Now the problem would be over defending, but he's already not done a good job defending, you know? So you got to get back into the drones. You got to get back into building the queens, which you can't afford. And as you realize that, that's a pretty bad sign. So that is going to be game. Clem, Hellbats, man. Coming back. Absolutely true with the planes. That's why window seat sucks. Thank you. I was afraid no one was going to be, you know, acknowledging my point. That everyone was going to be like, no, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I'd be like, look, maybe just not on planes that often. But thank you. It's absolutely the case. Sometimes window seat has a shockingly low amount of foot space. All right, now Clem leads 2-1. Going on to torches. Top right, Reynor. Bottom right, Clem. And continuing on the window aisle middle seat discussion. To be absolutely clear, the order of preference for me goes, I think now, aisle, middle, window. And not just because that's the order of the seats. But legitimately, I believe that middle for me is better than window because I want to get up so often. Window is actually hell for me. I feel even more obligated to just shut up and sit there for all 9 hours. I feel cramped anyway because I don't have my left, you know, or right, whatever. I don't have, you know, both armrests. And I don't have as much foot space. But middle has at least that, you know? And the people who like window, always their point is, well, I can sleep on the window. No one bothers me. I can lean my head against the airplane, you know, that type of thing. And it just, that does not work out for me, man. It doesn't. I did do the window seat thing. I was a good window seat person, all right? Like if you get, either you choose what you choose or you're unfortunate and you get put into a situation you don't like, but you're there, you gotta abide by the airplane rules. Unspoken, yes, but still very real. The window seat can't ask everyone to get up too often. The aisle seat has to abide whenever they are asked to get up. And everyone gives, you know, both armrests to the middle seat. Those are the rules. So I was a very good window seat, but I fucking hated it. I only got up once, and I felt like I was going to die. I could just feel that blood clot just, like, forming right there in the leg. But, yeah, the reason I was window seat is because I had to get my plane changed, my return flight changed. And Lufthansa was like, whoa, man. Whoa. You didn't pay for shit. And I'm like, well, I didn't pay for anything. It was the travel agent. They're like, whoa. You can't do anything else. You gotta pay for this. And I'm like, well, I would love to give you more money in exchange for an aisle seat. Please, sir. And they're like, no, you can't do that. You didn't pay us for the first thing. It was so frustrating. Never again. Never again. What if you have all three empty? Oh, I lie down. My flight from Riyadh to Frankfurt, actually, I had all three chairs to myself, and I laid down. I'm short enough. I'm gonna just squeeze it in. Yeah, I actually got to look out the window for once, which, you know, no one's like, whoa, what the fuck? There are lings in the main base. My bad, guys. My bad. Looks like this is a net negative, though, for Reynor. Yeah, net negative. Didn't even solve the command center. Wow, talk about not being a good thing. That sucked. Usually you get into the main base with lings and there's the either, okay, you killed an SCV on your way of doing it, so that's nice, or maybe you got the Marine, or you got a scout. And I would say that this is still kind of a scout. You saw that the factory didn't move over, but there's no guarantee that it didn't. So, well, it was kind of a partial scout. Still sucks, you really didn't get literally anything in return. So, Reynor built 6 lings, lost 6 lings. Lost a drone, had to cancel, building cancel a couple of things. Overall, it doesn't feel like a super great start. Reynor did mine out his side so he can take the triangle third, and is getting a roach warren at this point. In a pretty obvious location. If Clem had Hellions, he would have a strong chance of seeing it. But that is the if here. That is the interesting thing right now. So I feel like we've seen this more lately, which is the Banshees with Marine opener. So generally in StarCraft 2's history, it's been Hellion Banshee or Marines into the medevacs to drop the Marines. The combination of both is a little odd. Beyond does a 2-on-1 that has a cloakless Banshee because it kind of fits into the build that way, but that's still different than what this is, which is 2 cloaked Banshees. If a Zerg player were to see nothing but Marine production, they'd assume there's a second barracks, and 2 medevacs are going to arrive at 5:30. That's not the case. Instead, it's you know, it is going to be a decent amount of Marines, but there's that little bit of Banshee play, which in one game that I saw did absolutely nothing, despite it being kind of clever. And the other game that we saw at EWC, it actually did exactly what I thought it was going to do, which was it surprised the Zerg quite a bit, and did end up killing a bunch of drones. The Banshees were just not what they expected. So at this point, Reynor is building a Spore Crawler or 2, actually, and they are places where they can move them into either anti-Liberator zones or even anti-Medevac drop zones. So this is going to save him from any of those unnecessary kills from the Banshee, which, you know, I do believe is a surprise. Yep. Not much of one. The Queen's even in position. It's good. Usually I don't understand how window seat people don't get up every at least, you know, 2 or 3 times in a 10-hour flight. I'm with you. I look at them. Some people don't get up at all. And I look at them and I'm like, that's unreal. That's inhuman. That's not good for you. But basically, since I knew I was going to be window, I didn't drink very much leading up to the airplane, right? I slept as much as I possibly could, so I also skipped meals and drinks. Which, by the way, the meals on this particular flight were some of the worst I've ever had. So that helped. Somehow the Roach Warren is in trouble? Alright, yeah, the Banshees I mean, they were finding like a tremendous amount of success, but they were doing all right versus the drones, seeing an opportunity to grab the Roach Warren, and now the Roach Warren is killed. Reynor saw it coming and did start to rebuild it, so there's only a temporary gap in his ability to make the roaches. And not a particularly important gap either, as he was not going into a humongous roach swell. Yeah, which Clem, I think, was taken into consideration. Here's the bunker, nice defensive setup, another bunker at the front too. Like, he was a bit worried about the possibility of a roach swell, but soon enough he'll realize that is not the case. There are no roaches making their way across the map. I think the Reaper might have barely seen that there's a fourth there. Yes, it did. And that it will be into that hive, and then he'll just salvage the bunkers, no problem. Combat shields starting up only just now. Armory was maybe a little late for Clem too. Minor notes. As I said, he should be recognizing the hive. Is he going into 8 racks? There is no 4th command center. That's correct, there is no 4th command center. All right. 8 racks coming down. It's going to be a lot of bio being pumped out and across the middle of this map. As I say, still very scary. Reynor has at this point lost 11 drones. Almost a perfect game for Clem, who just salvaged maybe right there. That's where the numbers changed. Yes, indeed, to plant his 4th command center. Still a lot of priority on the barracks, though. And that can still be a bit of a difference. It's going to be... Torches can be a very frustrating-looking map for Zerg players, honestly, the longer this goes. The Terran continually leapfrogging their... Not only their tank attack! Oh, that was a good fungal. But also their command centers can look really unfair, but... It's about the Zerg player trying to slow it down and stop it from ever getting to that chokehold that they're looking for, where there's a planetary right here that they're attacking from. And that was a good stop. That was a great stop, in fact. Reynor collecting quite a few Marines with that first fungal. The tanks, obviously, having to siege up in the middle of the map is going to slow them down as well. And all before combat shields was done, too. Now that it's finally finished. Roach speed also finally finished. These infestors are going to do a great job of warning Clem off from trying to blitz after him. Clem fairly comfortable in this, keeping this place, however, with the tanks there, the chokes on his side, and roaches not being particularly quick, so they can't really fulfill the surrounds that might be possible. Clem is going to keep doing this as he expands probably over to here. Or over to here, actually. 2-2, about halfway done for Clem. Reynor trying to get up to that 1-2 scenario. No Ultralisk Cavern as of yet. No Vipers as of yet either. Just some of these Infestors. Roach Ravager. Fungal catches a lot of the medevacs, but no follow-up on them. Meanwhile, another squad of units looks for maybe a couple of Queens. Now forced to run away. Widowmine's popping off. Tanks getting jumped on. Everything happening all at once. Reynor going to look for the tanks primarily, and he is going to find every last one. Couple of medevacs as well, but that's still a lot of bio left over on the right side. More reinforcing down in the middle of the map as well. Baneling speed not quite done. +2 Carapace wasn't quite done either. Clem holds on to the supply lead. Barely gets off of creep. Mitigates the Baneling damage. The Baneling still with no speed. Finally going to start roly-polying. Making them a bit more dangerous as Clem moves aggressively onto this creep. He's going after the hatchery. Once the hatchery is not going to grab it, the threat of a possible fungal and the Banelings getting up close and personal was a little too much there, so he is going to evacuate. Reynor is able to hold on to his side of the map. Banshee comes in for some revenge, apparently. The other one had died. This one came in, killed an Infestor and a Queen, I believe. Or just maybe the Queen. Okay, yeah, just killed the Queen. So 2 Infestors still in the running, but very low on energy. Here's the follow-up already. Is there even a fungal? Not quite. They're preempting it, though, because it is dangerously close. Once again, backing off of creep, trying to save those factory units this time around, too. Nice dodge away there. The Juno Glands also finish up as the Lings are now being included. Reynor desperately holding on to this position so that the domino effect won't topple him. Should he lose here in dramatic fashion? That is a base gone for sure, but instead of losing that position, Reynor is in fact winning it. Getting into the weeds of the bio, basically, and allowing the Banelings to make some connections, allowing the Roach Ravager to make some connections, and now even looking after the 4th base Planetary. A lot of medevacs are available, but where the hell is the ground army? The Planetary not being repaired enough as the SCVs have gone down. It will fall, and the Roach Ravager will be able to flee, at least to some extent. Clem does want whatever he can grab before it can leave, and he does grab a couple more units. Apparently Marauder's slow and not been involved in all of those fights, which I will say I think would have made a difference. I really do. There's a lot of fights there that Marauders would have tagged a lot more. But now it is done. Clem, though, he was broken. That position was broken. He was forced all the way back. He lost the 4th command center. That was a pivotal moment. That was a tug of war that whoever won it was going to really send the other guy reeling. And now Clem has a lot of recovery to do. I don't know if he's going to try to replace his 4th base or just try and lift his main, but not a great start to the recovery as his little push out to the left side is fungal. Lings with adrenal glands. Very effective in these low unit scenarios. A couple of parasitic bombs to grab the weakened medevacs. Not too bad as well. Clem did replace his 4th. They didn't quite catch that, but he is another 4th on the way. That means he's got another chance to even things out supply-wise. But his aggression, as we can see, is just not working out here. His supply does not look very strong, and I think really at this point it is about trying to get maxed out again and then see if something can happen with that. You know, that is your first goal, and then maybe worry about something like winning the game a little bit down the line. But if you are just going to play defensive, thinking, okay, I need to recover, I need to recover, I need to recover, that's when the Zerg player just snowballs. So Clem is trying to keep up that pressure while also establishing his economy, but it ain't working, it ain't working! Oh, the cracklings just took on the bunker and that command center so quickly before Clem could even respond with a lift. He was simultaneously trying to micro against the front army, and that just was a terrible sequence of events, which he also loses 20 SCVs to the Lings, finding the 3rd base without protection. This all went to shit very quickly. Look at this fungal with the parasitic bomb on top of it. Oh my god. That is it. It's done. Game over, man. I can't believe Clem's actually... I would have just tapped out right there, man. Just been like, yeah, fair game. Double spells when I'm already down in 90 supply. Fair enough. Clem did kill a base, so maybe that's why he's feeling a little optimistic. Killed the Infestor there, too. Some nice focus fire. 3rd base is alive, just not the SCVs, which are getting devoured once again. A Terran and his dreams of medevacs flying around the skies. It's a beautiful sight. It's what every boy Terran dreams of when they look up in the sky. Super Saiyans. Flying around, bridging 100 supply gap, 50 or 60 of it in army supply. I don't think it's gonna happen though, man. I don't think so. I don't think Superman's gonna come in and save you. Clem's like raising the S flag and everything. No, but seriously, he's really giving this a go, isn't he? That is an overwhelming number of Zerg units. Wouldn't mind not getting the shots. 3rd base not mining. Clem does not want to play more games than he has to. He wants to win this one. That ain't gonna happen. GG's. Reynor will tie up the series. All right, game number 5 is gonna be on Tokamak. Bottom left, it's Reynor. Top right, it's Clem. Both these players apparently coming in after a long travel where the layover didn't work out and they had to be put in a hotel, and then they had to come around and get immediately onto a shuttle that took them to the tournament, and which was already being played, and then they had to play immediately, and then they played for hours and hours until at least midnight. Apparently this game, game 5, would have been played around midnight 30, something like that. And then apparently some of these players had like 6 a.m. flights, so it's a good story for this tournament. Very cool of the players to do it. Because even if things had gone according to plan and they had the half a day rest or whatever they were supposed to have before the tournament started, that's still a lot to ask for. But unfortunately for the people who organized this tournament, they were just put into a very rough spot. I mean, it's fortunate that they were able to do it at all, actually. Because if EWC had started this week as opposed to last, then yeah, all the players would have already flown out, so. Troopers! And that might be a reason for some of the mistakes that are being made. You know, like the supply blocks and maybe some missed micros at times, I don't know. It's actually been still remarkably high quality, considering everything. But also might account for maybe Reynor playing a little unorthodox, although I must say, it is actually such a funny mirroring, in fact. Last EWC, Reynor did not win versus Clem. He was the closest, but he didn't. And then their games after EWC, I remember casting them, and they were odd, too. So I guess it's just the reaction to, you know, recognizing that, like, in a straight-up mechanical game, maybe Clem will win. Thing is that it feels like very much that Reynor, and I think he said this, too. If Reynor plays at 100%, he will match or even beat Clem's mechanics, which is insane. But it was shown. It was shown in a couple of those games at last year's EWC. And it just didn't quite do it, you know? In like the series where it went to game 5 and it was super, super epic, Reynor after said he was playing at maybe 80%. Which, you know, if you hate Reynor, you could be like, oh, what an excuse. But I think he's actually being very realistic about his ceiling. There we go, his ceiling. But whatever it is, like I think the point is just Clem pretty good at this matchup. Does often take the macro games. You are going to have to maybe be the one who mixes things up. And that's is what Reynor did, and actually so did Clem. Clem with a couple of those Hellbat builds, right? Apparently, Reynor did win their first series in this tournament, if I remember the comments correctly. So, actually, Clem was coming into this as a slight underdog, if you will, if you want to say that. Oh, both creep tumors? Ha 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 ha. So he just rage quit out of the ladder game. Now, still getting one creep tumor is quite nice, because it really does have still some ripple effects. This early on in the game might not seem like a big deal, but it is, because very early on in the game, you get Hellions arriving, and the Hellions are going to take advantage of the lack of creep spread from your bases. So this one is, actually that one is probably the most ideal one to grab, just in case the queens are just a smidge later. It's all very small stuff. 99% of the time when the creep tumor went down. You can add up. Roach Warren was very quick, by the way, so this is actually much more important than the creep tumors. Reynor has done an excellent job with a very limited number of queens blocking the Roach Warren timing. I mean, that was a 320 Roach Warren or something? I'm actually very surprised he's not building roaches. Interesting. Okay. Generally, that macro Roach Warren has been coming down, I don't know, 3:45, 4 minutes, more like. But alright, okay. Regardless of the intent of the Roach Warren, the point is Clem still has not seen it, so he doesn't have any idea as to what's going on as of yet. He's probably feeling pretty good about the amount of creep tumors that he's killed, but again, that's not necessarily going to affect the long game here. Back at home, Clem 3cc, 111, Hellion Banshee. There you go, easy, quick summary. For Reynor, possibly, very possibly, going to be going into this Quake Hive, into the, basically as a defensive macro roach pace game that you can play. If you play it perfectly, it is perfect. Oh, it's mech. Oh. Something that Reynor should be aware of. You know, it's likely that mech will make an appearance in 2025. And Clem did show it a couple of times. Oh, Hellion's moving on in. The block was not good enough. It was so close, but not enough. 9 drones already going down. Scout being done too, and all those Hellions are in the main base. That is so many more drones killed as the Banshees find even more damage on that 4th hatchery. 3 Hellions are blocked out, 3 still around, running around, looking for everything they can. Now they're back to 6 all collected together, and their roaches aren't fast, and their creep spread's not connected. No, okay, they're gonna body block. The best salvaging of a very poor scenario, but the 3rd base drones are still in trouble. Oh my god. I mean, that was the best salvaging of the bad scenario, but it's still getting worse. So much worse. 25 drones go down. It took so long to clean up, and the 2 Banshees are still alive, meaning more drones are falling. A Queen almost got taken down. Okay, 1 Banshee will die. Fair enough, but I would say still it's a very nice feeling as a Terran player to have at least, oh, there was 3 Banshees anyway, to have at least 1 Banshee alive, just in case their reaction to losing all those drones is say, fuck it, and just run across the map. Which I think, you know, it is absolutely possible, not what Reynor's doing, but you'd have a Banshee, and more than that, you'd have Cyclones already too. Which isn't always the case. Sometimes it's just like 10 Marines, and that's not that impressive, but Cyclones would also be a great thing to have against a Roach counter. Reynor doesn't even know they exist. Reynor just lost all those drones and still has not scouted the fact that it is battle mech. Right now, he's probably thinking, well, actually, the fact that there are 6 more Hellions probably did just reveal that, to be fair. To be fair, he probably did, but it's still a bad scenario. And it only feels worse as you realize, oh, that is more Hellions. He must have more factories, and he must be going into battle mech. That's an even worse feeling. Well, the lull in damage taken should be brief. Clem, yeah, could move out. He could move out and just continue doing more damage with Cyclones. Maybe he was giving the proper respect to the potential of a Roach Swell, so he was still darting around looking for more damage, looking for how many Roaches there were, but now seeing there's really nothing coming across the map. It is his turn to bully. And bully he shall. Overload's going down, creep spread being cleaned up. The Roaches can't do very much against this army, honestly. The fungal would help. If it hits, and if there's enough firepower behind it. 15 drones went down. Oh, the Hellions out of the main base again. They just slipped right on by. 22 drones. As Clem says, yeah, okay, that's good enough. Not even really pressuring the most that he can. Of course, he does have to respect the fungal, so there's always going to be that, but just dances around to the right side, clears up more creep spread, provides more opportunities for the future, now rallying the rest of his army down. Fungal number 1 is decent, but there's more Cyclones and not more fungals. The Banshee's even providing a lot of that extra DPS, with the speed almost done for them too, and he's continuing to make them, knowing that that's going to be something Reynor simply cannot deal with. +1 missiles done for Reynor, but I don't think Clem cares very much. There's the Banshees dominating the skies. Target firing down the Infestor. Only 1 remains. Another one does pop out, but the Roach numbers continue to dwindle. And Clem is on 4 bases. All the factories he wants. Only just now getting an upgrade, but that's okay. The Banshees head into the main at this point with their speed. They can always dodge around. Spore Crawler is still a little bit too much for them to take on, but 5 more drones go down. Another fungal over on the right side is pretty good, and he's going to make sure with the follow-up to collect every last Cyclone there. But this is a game that is certainly not as close as maybe the supplies make you think. First of all, a mech Terran being ahead in supply never feels good. So most of us know that. The second of all, it's just so much more than the supply and the numbers on the screen. Just the ability for Reynor to ever get maxed out is questionable in a game like this. He has no creep spread, so he has very little advanced notice of an incoming attack. It just increases the chances of the attack working. He still has Banshees in the sky that are still very difficult to deal with. Yeah, the fungal just helped take down 1, but even if this is being taken down, it's something that the Zerg has to consider at all times. 1 mistake. Okay, the Banshees aren't a problem anymore. I don't have to worry about them. That's how you lose all your Infestors, swear to God. Although Clem does give up on the Banshee production here. 4 bases will eventually mine out, where Clem has all the map dominance. He can continue to expand without a care in the world. Should Reynor have any opportunity to counterattack, again, Banshees in the skies could make him hesitate. It's very impressive that Reynor's still alive. After losing 56 drones, you'd think most other Zerg players would have tapped out by now. Because they've been forced to tap out, to be clear. They would have been actually killed. But Reynor, not quite dead yet. Just hopping around on 1 foot. Still has a sword arm intact. Can do some things. Another fungal catching 4 Cyclones. Not too shabby. Blue Flame is not done, so those Lings are actually surviving a bit longer than you would like. Armor was done, so now we get the second armor on the way for Clem as he takes a 5th base on location. Well, not on location, but he does put it on location without any hiccups. There's no burrowed ling. There was no roaches threatening that before it became a planetary. All the other SCVs on the right side haven't had a care in the world. And that ultimately is going to be what always keeps Reynor suppressed like this, is that he's got no action on the other side of the map. Nothing to make this a complicated game for Clem. As soon as Ling run-bys arrive, as soon as a Nidus Worm threatens the back line of Clem, that's when it gets a lot more of a back and forth, and Clem can be forced to make really big mistakes. Now, Clem should never make a huge mistake. Fungal was good, but then the follow-up wasn't really possible thanks to the choke. Neural Parasite is fun. I did see that on the production tab, but I wondered how effective it was going to be. But for this particular composition, seems like it is actually kind of neat. The idea being that the infestors should not die, should not get locked on. But then if the Cyclones, the Zerg Cyclones, get in range of your opponents, they will absolutely get the kill. 11 drones go down to the Hellion run-by while this is going on. This base is a goner. Infestors are the way to play this. Fungal does come down, and that is a really good Fungal with a follow-up one, too. So the Roaches and Ravagers get a lot of opportunity to kill a lot of the Cyclones. That's what Reynor was waiting for. How many Infestors did he lose, though? 13 Infestors in total. Yeah, he did lose a lot right there. He is rebuilding many of them. That's still a lot of gas to lose. And Clem has taken down now all of the creep spread. 6th base is done. 7th is done. Floating on over to the half gold base, too. As Reynor desperately tries to get a 5th base up and running, he did not accumulate enough of a bank to be able to remax instantly. And that is eventually how Reynor loses. He will just get whittled down, which Clem knows. He is rich. He is a very consistent income at 89 SCVs. So the loss of a Cyclone army here or there is not enough. Liberators are on the production tab. Lib range as well. A couple of tanks would definitely do well, I think, and they are being included on the front line. It's a nice anchor, any siege unit here. And they also make it so that one fungal doesn't really cause huge problems. Like, it's still good to get the fungal on the Cyclones, of course, but we could even go more into tank mech, and then the infestors don't feel as effective. Or often, I mean, honestly, depending on how much we go into tank mech, the infestors can even feel kind of useless. Just because if they do try and get neural parasites, the tanks make sure to focus fire on the neural parasiting infestor, as shown right there. That's an excellent display. And the infestors sacrifice themselves for generally no good. This is looking like the end of it. So 2 Liberators get bopped. 3 Cyclones might get torn down, but it goes back to the economy. It goes back to how many times Clem can reinforce and how many times can Reynor. Reynor needs this base. He needs it. SpongeBob looking at the glass of water right now in Sandy's little hut. I don't need it. I don't need it. He absolutely does. Tiny little fights as Clem doesn't quite have critical mass on the front line. They look promising for Reynor, but it's just such a small part of the story. Clem just needs to wait a little bit to collect his forces together, and then there will be an unbeatable army. As the Blue Flame Hellions now look for even more drone kills. How much are we up to? We're close to 100. Just need 4 more for that. There's another one. And then probably these drones will be the 100 breaker. Liberator, tanks, Cyclones. All terrifying units right now. And Clem is just reinforcing down this line with 0 threats anywhere else on the map. Reynor has been behind for 10 minutes plus at this point. Actually, I think the Hellions ran into more like 4 minutes maybe. It is bad times. A very ugly game for Reynor that showed a little bit of promise. Every now and again, hey, Fungals versus Cyclones, pretty good. But Clem was expanding, Clem was producing, Clem was reinforcing, he was also out-teching, and he does finally get the win, so that is a 3-2 lead for the Terran. And now this could be the final game. The top right of ley lines, it is Reynor, and the bottom left we do have Clem. Clem bringing out a bit of that battle mech, but it really wasn't battle mech's fault for that game going the way that it did. Hellions get into a main base. It's problems for the Zerg player. And it might sound so easy. Damn you, Terran, with your easy ability to win against Zerg. If only. If it was so easy, a lot of more TVZs would end at that moment. It's not that easy. And it's a risk as well. You know, for a Terran player to actually bypass the Queens is generally the first difficulty, as the Zergs have gotten very good at tracking. But then even if you do, you are taking a gamble. Every time, basically. That the Lings aren't there in numbers high enough to stop your Hellions and allow the Queens to get their attack done. So, on the Zerg side of things, you know, if they don't make the Lings and they do lose Queen positioning, there is a solid chance the Terran player will get a lot of damage done, but that's not always something the Terran player will do. There's plenty of games where that's an opportunity missed in a very technical way, but that's what happens when you play a game of incomplete information. But then every once in a while, the stars align. You were kind of, you know, looking for that opportunity with the Hellions in the first place. They didn't make a lot of Lings. Their Queens are slightly out of position, and then you get one of the easier games you'll ever play versus the likes of Reynor. If Clem had not continued to expand, if he did not add on the technology that he did, I honestly could have seen a way that Reynor made a real epic comeback, but at the end of the day, it really was a game that I don't think Reynor plays through if it was a ladder game. as soon as he loses the next 20 amount of drones, right? There was the first 20, and then I think there was the second 20. I think that's when you go, this game's just too ugly, like, not even gonna bother, but... SCV Scout. Reynor has been a little cheeky this series, so didn't want something else to be thrown at him. It wouldn't have been a proxy hatch, obviously, but an early roach or early spawning pool. Just that alone. Now Clem doesn't have to worry about it. Finds the drone before it can turn into an extractor, so that's a bit of a feels bad for Reynor. And now this drone also needs to be careful. Plus he took one that has minerals in its mouth. 5 points from Gryffindor. What Harry Potter Hogwarts house would Reynor be in? You know, I want to say Slytherin, but because Slytherin is basically just a code word for a dick, that's not, you know, that doesn't feel fair. Like, if only Slytherin was actually supposed to be the cunning player or whatever, then I think it would fit, but everyone knows that Slytherin just means you're an asshole. And I don't think Reynor's an asshole. Hufflepuff? I definitely don't think he's Hufflepuff. Definitely not a Hufflepuff. I'm a Hufflepuff. If Slytherin had a good connotation, Slytherin. Yeah, the 4 types of kids: brave, smart, evil, and other. I'm the other. Back when obviously Harry Potter was much bigger, I used to watch, you know, the Harry Potter Puppet Pals and shit like that. There's just one video where they're like, you know, doing all the... Whoop, hold on. Yep, yeah, okay. Never mind then. But they're doing, you know, I'm Ravenclaw, I'm smart, and I can figure out puzzles. I'm Gryffindor, I'm brave, and will protect my friends. And then it pans over to Hufflepuff, and she just holds up her hand, and it's cut, and she's like, I'm Hufflepuff. Cut my hand real bad. I'm a proud Hufflepuff. Anyway, so 1-1-1 from the 3cc Terran. Reynor is just trying to make sure the Hellions do not destroy any chance of a solid game from him. So far, so good. Would you guys consider Clem versus Classic a big upset? Well, statistically, historically, yes. I did a very smart caster thing, which is that I didn't bring balance or design into any of my cast or analysis. But I did point out that Clem was on a 20 series win streak up until about 2 months ago. And that's all I gotta say about that. Obviously, that Classic has improved drastically as a player in the last 2 months, and it's just really cool. Anyway. So, one Helene has fallen. That's about the extent of what's interesting about this game. Oh, this drone just trying to be saved is actually kind of neat. 2 Banshees arrive with no Overseer, though, and, well, that's just still too many Queens, I suspect, for the Hellenes to really contribute. Unfortunately, the Hellions couldn't contribute a whole lot. They did add in just little bits of damage. Oh, that Sporkbrella finished. Kind of surprised Clem. Also losing 7 SCVs back at home. Not too shabby of a sequence of events there for Reynor, but he will lose a decent number of those Lings. The Hellions coming back. Not a very good timing. Yeah, okay. Well, 3 Queens were killed. A Banshee was killed, and 8 SCVs killed. Some tit for tat there. It's a little more problematic for Reynor, who had to make a decent number of Lings. Still needing to make that drone count up a little further, especially because Clem is on 3cc, mule dropping on the individual bases. So that's optimal mining there. And you can see that Clem was winning a little bit in the income. Things are settling, though, as Reynor continues to add on drones. He has once again gone into Ling Baneling. The Roach game's not working out particularly well for him so far. Could also be interpreted that Terran was overpowered until 2 months ago. I could. Regardless, it is a transfer of power, I think, that is unrelated to the individual players. Or that is entirely because of the individual players, I should put it that way. I do think Classic has improved and has gotten better. That is a decent number of Marines on the front line, but Banelings are prepared, and Reynor, well, he does play with fire, honestly. All of the Lings went across the map to try and go for a run-by as opposed to saving that hatchery back at home. Seems to have been a good plan so far, as SCVs are going down and Lings are causing more chaos. Meanwhile, the Banelings are now appropriately protected by more Lings, so that does look like a more solid defense. The Marines could still focus fire, though, and that's a little sketch. They're not going to be able to, and oh, the friendly fire from the Widow Mines and the Queen focus fire ends in the loss of that entire attack. Well, that wasn't what you planned for. That just ended in absolute catastrophe for Clem right there. I mean, that was... that was position that I was definitely on the side of Clem for. I was like, you do your thing. You get him. Get him, girl. Because he was going to micro, he was going to dance, he was going to have the pickup option if he really needed to get the heck out of dodge, and that is a Terran player using what they've done a billion times before, and it just went so crazy south, and now it's getting even worse. Lings hitting into all the SCV lines, Banelings hitting units, and now 19 SCVs have been killed, as Reynor sends Clem all the way back home, giving him so much time to mine off of what is now 5 going on 6 bases. Clem is in a whole heck of a lot of trouble. No 4th CC in sight. He was 8-raxing, but it didn't even get started. It got killed before it really got started. It was supposed to start here. Nice pickup. Leave the units there. Reinforce. Continue hammering this base. And it just all went to shit so quickly. And now Clem is kind of desperate. Gonna split up his army. Hope that splitting up the army catches Reynor off guard, but Reynor once again with a Ling run-by is going to make sure this is pretty damn all in. On the left side, Reynor has Ling Baneling. On the right side, Reynor has Ling Baneling. And this doesn't quite look like it's going to do the trick. The army did pick up on the right side, and we'll be finding the 6th hatchery without a cancel. Okay, so there's a kill. That's something, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Reynor has the army supply lead. He has a significant worker lead. He is falling behind in those upgrades as Clem looks to get 2-2. But how much army can Clem actually accumulate? Not much. Not much. Able to afford all of his production so far. Yeah, actually, all of his army production, but not able to afford much in the replacing of his SCVs, not even bothering to try, as he continues to drop and drop and drop and hope that Reynor starts to mishandle the multitasking. Some cost-efficient Marines over there on the right side, but then we have a big old attack in the middle. No Banelings, but also not necessary, apparently. That's way too many Lings, and Clem is forced to disengage. 2-2 has now completed, though, so this is important. Clem only down 10 army supply. Okay, make that 20. But, you know, a couple of Widow Mines pop off. Banelings aren't included. And 2-2 Marines could still take a very good fight. Ling's going for the surround. Widow Mine's not going to get very good shots at all. But this is where that 2-2 really shines. Or the medevac healing power as well. The Ling is getting absolutely massacred. And the Banelings are like, were we supposed to help? Sorry about that. We were doing other things. Now we're going to roll off like we did nothing wrong. That was not the fight that Reynor was hoping for. He does fall down in the supply, but he has Burrow. Burrow Banelings can still absolutely help out. He's got a good amount of creep spread. He's got a very solid economy. He's going to try and catch up on that 2-2 upgrades. That's going to take a very long time. Not able to scan, I guess? Yeah, just saving the scan for something more important later down the road. Oh, doesn't pick up very quickly. The Banelings do make connections, and this will indeed be game. Reynor, too strong of a position to ever lose that one, even though upgrades are good. And we are heading to a game 7. And now, very much the last game. No other chances. And we're on Maganatha. On the top left, it is Clem. In the bottom right, it is Reynor. Clem's 8 racks. Never really began in the last game. Just one of the worst losses of the forward drop that we've seen. The Widow Mines helping to kill those medevacs was huge. Because it's very likely in every other scenario that plays out that the 2 medevacs revive with maybe all 16 Marines. And then it just never lets go. It just never lets go of that position. It stays there. You know, it covers around the creep. It's the reinforcing point that, you know, you will eventually get back to once you clear up whatever run-bys are sent your way. And it's a strong chokehold. And it just went to complete shit. Like, to have that entirely killed while the run-by was happening. Absolutely brutal sequence of events. Clem's going to really change things up here, though. On the largest map in the map pool, he's going to go for a forward 2 racks. Then it is just the 2 barracks. Reynor will see this as 2 racks shortly. And see the command center building behind it. But when it's a 2 racks, it's not often that we talk about the potential of the damage. It's 3 Reapers nowadays, most of the time. It can stall out the 3rd hatch. It should stall out the 3rd hatch. But it doesn't do much more than that. It's more about what trickery they have behind this 2 racks. Is it going into a Swift 2-on-1-on-2 base? Is it going into a 3rd CC? Is it a fake? It's actually going into mech, despite having 2 barracks available to you. I've never done the comparison before, but I guess it is kind of like a Zerg 2 base opener. You know, in ZVZ, where it's like, I got the Roach Run, I got the Evo Chamber. I could be going Roaches. I could be going Roachling all in. I could be going Roach all in. I could be going Nidus Worm all in. I could be going Mutus. What lies behind the wall? There is a 3rd racks on the way, though, so we already have some indication as to what's going to go on. There's going to be some 2 base committal, a lot of bio coming through. This was shown by Cure as well. And it's for me, the 4 racks is absolutely more of a Cure thing, but every Terran was doing it when it was heavily in the meta. One thing you don't want to let happen, I would say, is the Overlord seeing this just for free.
Swarm forces under attack. Successful.
3 Reapers still trying to do whatever they can. They weren't able to stall out this third hatch, though. That's actually going to complete very quickly. So I'd say this 2 racks opener is already less than ideal. That is a very swift third hatch when you're supposed to kind of catch the drone as it transfers over, and then if it does manage to be put down, then maybe the Reapers are on top of it so early on they can still get the cancel. That was allowed to be gotten. And 3 Reapers otherwise have killed 6 Lings. But like I said, I mean, it is generally still more about this follow-up and how much it surprises the Zerg. Bunch of Marines are out, but of course it would. 2 racks are available, and they were getting the add-ons, which the Overlord was able to see. It did not see if there was a factory behind this, and that's a pretty big difference. Factory or 3rd CC or 2 extra barracks. Reynor's got to keep tabs on that, but it's having Lings out in the middle of the map. The Reapers looking to be surrounded. Barely not. Barely not. And we have Clem only showing enough Marines to say, I have 2 barracks producing them. So Reynor is still in a bit of a dark place here. He's not going to be ready for the amount of Marines heading across the map. Does need a good amount of drones, so you can't just, prepare against this. Even if he did know it was on the way, you can't just start making a bunch of Lings. You need that good number of drones to play the sustain game that this can turn into. The Reapers, once again on the front line, very bold thing to do, because obviously the speed is done. They could be making a lot of Lings, and they could have just killed all these Reapers, but the Reapers are doing an excellent job killing the Lings and clearing out any scouting. No scouting happened from Reynor to see the Marines marching across the map. That's a lot of them, and they do have stim. No Bailings available. Ling number is not particularly high. Drones are going to be pulled into this because Reynor realizes how desperate of a situation this is, but look at that. They got murdered. They got massacred. The Queens are next. More drones are next. This is already a killing blow from Clem, having arrived on Reynor's doorstep without any scouting on the side of Reynor. As a death sentence. And that is a crappy way to lose game number 7, but it's StarCraft, guys. It happens. That is way too much damage to be taken. Reynor was chasing the Reapers. He was trying to make sure he got to a good drone count so that he could play out a longer game, and he had zero idea that there was going to be that many Marines and that they were being sent across the map without his knowledge. And unfortunately, this is not some type of all-in where that is somehow the bare minimum damage required. No, this was dedicated to an extent. If it did absolutely 0 damage, then Clem has some issues in his build. The very late 3rd CC, the no second upgrade, the lack of factory units. But obviously it did do enough damage. And just following this up with a slightly later 3rd CC, and, maybe not both upgrades, but 1 upgrade is still absolutely plenty. Reynor just had no idea. Just maybe didn't expect that build from Clem. Did get a little too preoccupied. It is apparently 1:30 in the morning when they were playing too, so can't blame him. Clem does a pretty cheeky build. It's very, very successful. And now with Medivacs, there's really nothing to stop these Marines. Medivacs and combat shields. And 0 Banelings from the Zerg. Surround is only partially effective. And that is basically that. Reynor really doesn't want to tap out, but the Marines are alive. More Lings are being made, which means more drones are not. And Clem has had the worker lead for some time now. Looks like Clem will say, all right, you got me for now. He will pull back, but he's pulling back into a lot of reinforcements into the 3rd CC. Actually, a lot of his reinforcements are caught. Okay, well, he'll notice that eventually, and he will bring them forward. There it is, and he'll bring them forward, and Reynor will not be able to stop that. It is inevitable, unless Reynor somehow deals with the first wave in a second flat. Instantly kills the first wave, gets the time to build the drones, then go back into army. There's nothing he can do. Burrowed Banelings is really cool, but it still isn't enough. I would hardly count that as the first wave. That was the first 0.7 wave. Here's the rest of the wave. Because he needs drones. He can't just keep taking trades. At 39 drones, this is never going to be enough. Excuse me as my timer goes off. It's a funny scan of the third. Maybe that was just a misclick, but... Burrowed Banelings still trying their best. Love the idea, but it's just too far gone. Reynor will have to tap out, and Clem will take the series 4-3.